Welcome to my review and collection of experiences for Troubleshooter Abandoned Children, developed and published by Dandelion. This will contain mild spoilers, but if you want the short, spoiler-free version of this, consider the fact that I've rarely done these sorts of videos in my life as a seal of approval. In the Christmas of 2022, Starfruit, former channel patron and good friend, got me a couple of presents. One was a Randy Orton figurine. It's a bit of a long story. The other was a £20 Steam gift card to use as I desired. I've had a history of using such things towards series for the channel. In its 11-year span, some have helped pay for already planned projects, but sometimes it's paid for games I decided to purchase and just record my experiences. Troubleshooter became one of those. As noted during the series, my first knowledge of the game was the We Are Troubleshooter soundtrack randomly appearing in my YouTube feed. I liked the art style, the tune was catchy, I was curious. But what I have not said is that this actually happened over a year ago. While I was intrigued to find out what the game was, and even went and saw some of the pictures of its early life, it didn't really strike me to buy the game at all, even with the background in the XCOM series that I've had over the course of time. So, what changed? After 3 years away, I moved back into my hometown in circumstances not ideal and which swiftly got worse. But before I did, I recently had finished Resident Evil 4 Remake, a exceptionally well put together game that ticked all the right boxes, but struck me as something that just wouldn't allow itself to have fun, be quirky and make memories. I do somewhat regret some of the tone I set during the videos, but I still stand by my words. If the game had a soul, it seemed embarrassed to show it. This combination led me to desire a game that I could just throw myself into and enjoy its depths and complexities, but not feel bogged down by a super serious vibe. It was when scrolling through my list of liked YouTube videos where I came across We Are Troubleshooter. I was reminded of my first thoughts what the game could be. On sale for $19.99, it seemed the perfect fit. I've enjoyed my journeys in the XCOM, though as much as with enabling channel viewers to create their own characters for the team and their stories to play out in front of everyone's eyes. Unscripted drama, tales that could end at any given moment. I knew Troubleshooter would not be quite the same. The characters predetermined and the plot set. But I felt ready to dive headfirst into a genre mix of strategy, of anime that I was not that used to. My insight for what some of the viewers behind Excel & Browning, Shangdu, David Crimson, Kajili, and many others must have felt. Firstly, the lore. My goodness, the lore. This game came out at the end of 2017 in early access. 5.5 years later, Dandelion are still supporting and working on this game. It is a testament to what they clearly think of their product, and it shows in the world of Valhalla and the planet at large. The universe they have created is truly special in both size and scope. I've not watched much anime, and admittedly I'm not the biggest moviegoer around, but the scale of story that oozes through this screen is remarkable. The best way I can try to describe it is take Albus, the main character of the game. He forms a troubleshooter company and works mainly in his early days alongside Isaac of the VHPD, whose popular food destination is a noodle bar run by Yusuke. One of Isaac's arranged visitors there is Sharky, the leader of the Spoonist religion, taking in folks who feel betrayed by society, like Turk and Nam, who were former residents of the Alley, a community that was led by Carter, and which was eventually decimated by Taisu and Huang Rang of the Nine Dragon Gang, who were meant to come under the leadership of Kylie, but after refusing, became an engineer and would subcontract for the police and especially Inspector Jane, who is old friends with Giselle, the former leader of the Black Pearl's 9th Division, where Albus first wanted to become a troubleshooter. I have never seen a game where so many stories were waiting to be found. The depths and relations between characters are both nervously complex and staggeringly intricate. There are even secrets hiding in plain sight in many of the stills, of characters we're yet to meet appearing early so that you can go back, enjoy the lovely art, and realise that certain stories have been laying in wait for longer than you had realised. The sheer amount of named characters that appear through the story is absurd. It can make the story difficult to track later on when you have to remember who Chris used to work for or who Shotaro's brother was, but I've survived Final Fantasy XIII. This isn't my first rodeo. Nonetheless, there was certainly no obligation to bring so much depth to so many people, and while it does challenge the memory at times, the effort, at the very least, must be commended. Bravely, this game even touches on some pretty tricky topics, the main of which is the theme of discrimination. How easy it can be to do without even realising, and the long-lasting effects that it can have. Those from the alley all faced it in Valhalla, where the laws set almost enforced it. Haishing's instinctive reaction to sighing getting more dumplings in him, the lack of dignity given to the alley refugees trying to make a new life in the city. It drove Ray into frustration, Turk and Narm into desperation, and is a constant theme throughout. It also powers the Spoonists, who use their mask as a way to offer equal footing with their brothers and sisters, giving those shut out a chance at a community. It almost makes them the good guys out of all this. Almost. To me, it makes the game feel more real and relatable, as much as it shouldn't exist in our world. Sadly, discrimination does. Yet, the game manages to use it as a complement to the overall story, not be totally dominated by it. The game features little voice work, not surprising for the amount of cast members, but it was something I decided to play along with, voicing very little of the dialogue throughout this series, so viewers could form their own character voices in their head. Rio's steely demeanour, John's peaceful badassery, Burke's stoicism, Diane's deep care for her close friend. The art style allows the viewer to buy into the world they are presented with. Colourful and vibrant, but when it needed to be, cold and brutal. Valhalla in a nutshell. But without it, the experience simply could not be the same. Memories of thoughtful Irene, stern Anne, and cheerful Ray, amongst others, will remain. Next, the music. The reason I even know of this game's existence. It is slightly bittersweet. The tracks are solid, and some of the more peaceful ones are really a pleasure to listen to, but I wished there was more of it. Or hearing the battle theme ringing when the team was falling apart at the early game Magenta Street raid was a lot of fun and really fit the vibe. After hearing it 80 hours later, it does sadly start losing its effect. The occasions where other tracks played were badly needed. A lesson to be learnt from XCOM, who mastered this art years ago. Still, what was there was enjoyable. Watching Jason ponder his future to any other track than Hot Wheel simply wouldn't have been the same. That brings me to the combat. And after 3 playthroughs of various XCOM games, I was ready for a shake-up. And my goodness did I get that. XCOM's team system of we all do our stuff and they all do their stuff works totally fine in its context, but after experiencing Troubleshooter's ambitious and rich diversity thrown at me with such audacity, I don't know how I could ever go back to it. Somehow, Dandelion managed to pack a development system with as many options and possibilities as the plotline, and ironically, it has similar pros and cons. The choice available for your character's build is seemingly endless in its tweaking, but even larger scale, I could think of 5 or 6 different builds for Albus alone and suspect that's not even scratching the surface. Irene's hero mechanics are a lot of fun, but after I decided to go all in on builds focusing around it, the rewards were both physical and emotional. Ray's transformation from medic support to alchemist destroyer of worlds was awesome for its boldness and creativity. I didn't even go into Giselle's Hunter stuff. It was one mechanic too many to track properly. And that was the double-edged sword that this game resides on. For its price, the amount of customizing you can do is fantastic. But it also means new game mechanics are being introduced dozens of hours into the game, which some point some have already hit critical mass with what they can cope with. I missed two characters starting and finishing their own class types, as there was so much going on at times. I did plenty of off-screen work to assist with that. Others might not be so able or willing. Several evenings were spent modifying masteries, crafting equipment, some grinding for loot. I don't feel like it's all necessary, well, except for the grinding. There'll be a point somewhere where you'll feel like you'll need to do it for a bit. But I didn't feel punished for ignoring certain things. Maybe stones to overturn if I ever found myself starting from scratch again. The combat itself is fine, and more a chance to play out whatever creations you've designed in a live field. Some will be more successful than others. The maps are in keeping with the game's overall art design, and while there are a few missions that didn't hit the spot for me, mainly beast-related stuff, it was the mini-missions where the game truly showed its blend of story and substance. Roberto challenging several troubleshooters to 1v1s, the chaotic police training exercises, the Spoonist civil war, and of course, the gorgeously rich Scent of the Past mission, which was basically 6 mini-stories in one, except you could experience them in any order you desired, if indeed you chose to do so at all. You didn't lose out for not exploring all the various paths, but it does lead well into the near future and events to come. Also, Anne's dismissing of the Rainbow Dory has got to be a highlight. Overall, the choice to have a system where everyone acts independently of each other in combat promotes a diverse battlefield, instead of a tug of war, where solo Irene can really feel like the hero she is, and not just waiting for her side to have their turn. It also allows the chance of multi-party combat, something that should be embraced where possible. Chances for opportunism and getting your opponents to take each other out, other times simply just trying to survive the odds and nothing else. There is plenty to learn from the start, things like vigor and the time unit system to a plethora of status effects, and these are just kind of thrown at the player to digest as they go. But for the astute, the chance to sample later game abilities and effects early can inform later choices when crafting their own builds. For an RPG-style system such as this, it's a cool way to tease the things to come and build familiarity for later on, so that you can say, oh yeah, that's that crazy strong buff Carter to cast himself. I want a piece of that too, please. I can't comment on the multiplayer system that is also available if desired. I have not delved into it, and suspect I probably won't. Not that I think it'd be bad. Call It the Game has already provided plenty enough for me to work through, and would require a fresh company to explore it. But the thought of doing separate missions cooperatively, or perhaps against other troubleshooters, is a neat one. Newer players sampling the wares on offer from more experienced veterans, and whatever else there is. I might poke my head in out of curiosity, but figure it'll probably appeal to others more. It might also have led to a more filled-out hub world at Shooter Street, so I'll put that one down to me. In closing, it's been one of the better uses of 1999 that I've had in a long while. A truly impressive level of content awaits. Dandelion even released their first post-game episode completely free of charge, which is very admirable. I have already purchased the second, Crimson Crow, and I'm eager to see what remains and to close the many story threads that still remain. I have also longed for Alyssa in my team and my heart since part 4 of the series, and I have been a very patient man. Decisions await me for team composition, and I look forward to them. I even went and bought some costume sets to use for the post-game content and the Troubleshooter art book just to help with this video. I think it's the first time I've gone to buy a game's art after the fact. I guess I just feel that £20 is too cheap for the value and entertainment I've had from this experience. If I hadn't been recording, I reckon there might have well been a tear for Anne's touching and agonising goodbye moment with Luna, and for Ray's reunion with Chaos Brush. Such is what I felt and had invested into. Especially Ray, a sad story of struggle, deceit, and rejection, but who found passion in her art and finally people to truly call her family. The last word must go to Irene Lyon, the hero we all want. Never, ever change, my dear. Never, ever change.